interpreted as statement of fact. Independent fact-checking and corrections are encouraged.
Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Oh, no. Not a show. Not a damn show. Damn shows.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
I don't. I don't make you laugh. Well, I might make you. Maybe you're laughing at me. You're laughing at me. I'm not loving this lighting situation either. I have a feeling. Well, I don't have a feeling. I got a feeling deep inside. Oh yeah. Anyway, I got a feeling. I'm not loving it. I am not loving it at all. Good morning, folks. Oh, yes, it's morning. It's Wednesday, right? Because I missed Tuesday. I apologize for that. Life gets in the way sometimes, and yesterday was one of those days where life got in the way. If you're wondering, you know what? This could be the problem. Is glasses. I don't have my regular glasses. I lost my signature. I left my signature glasses at a gig at the Northport VA yesterday. I will be retrieving them, but in the meantime, I got these messed up little glasses. They make me look weird. Well, not that I don't look weird anyway. I look weird to begin with, but these are. I just not loving them, and maybe that's. I'm not seeing things all that clearly, so maybe that's why the lighting is off. Anyway, yesterday I did have a performance at Northport VA in the room where I once played a man to his final resting place, which, if you don't know that story, maybe I'll relay it at some other point, maybe in this program. Who knows? I don't know where we're going. Want to tell you about Jackie. His documentary is coming out Tuesday. There is a link. It's a simple link. It's a very simple link to where you can pre-order it. It's jenny.us/jokeman. You can check that out. Jackie's documentary. And he's going to be dishing a lot of dirt in this documentary. I mean, fighting back. Jackie's not necessarily the kind of guy who pushed back at Stern too much. But there are a lot of people, some of them I don't like, Anthony Cumia being one in this thing, who are just kind of leveling Howard Stern out a little bit for his abuse of Jackie over the years and the perception that Stern was funny. Now, here's the thing. People claim that Stern is funny. Go back to the time when Jackie left the show before Artie got on the show, and listen to anything in that period. There's no fucking laughs. Not one laugh. Without Jackie, without Artie, Stern was lost. That's my contention. And there's plenty of proof of that. Go back and find that time between, I don't know the exact year, but when Jackie left and when Artie started, there was a gap of about 4 months in there. And you can listen to it, and you can find out. Stern wasn't funny on his own. So the Jackie documentary is coming out Tuesday. You want to see that if you're a Stern fan, if you're interested in the history of how we got to here. Because, you know what? The Howard Stern show was very instrumental in how we got to here. Stern was really um, riding on the coattails of Don Imus. And I know, Don Imus did not leave a very happy legacy. People um, not happy with him when he passed. But to me, he was very influential to me. I mean, he was the reason I wanted to get into radio. I loved the Imus in the Morning program. Growing up in he was part of my teenage years and my wanting to get into uh, radio. Stern got on the same platform, same station as Imus. He was the afternoon guy when Imus was Imus in the morning, and was doing the same stuff. So we got then Opie came along, and listen, Opie came along. Boy, oh boy, you could be full of regrets if you don't know. Opie started when I started in radio on the same for the same company. He was on BAB, WBAB here in Long Island. WBAB. Oh, stop it with you calling me. I'm not ready for phone calls. Um, WBAB was the AM FM station on Long Island in the 70s. Then when I came along and was getting into radio, it split into two. AM and FM were two different divisions. Same company. Opie got the late night show on WBAB. I got the late night show on WNYG, which was the same company, but the AM version. And I didn't really mind that because I was doing mostly talk, and Stern and Imus were AM guys, so that's where I got my start. But was a rival of Opie's, and if not for my incident, I probably would have taken over when Opie moved to WNEW in New York and hooked up with Kumia. But shot myself in the foot with the very famous incident where I almost threw the television through the control room window. But so I'm just trying to kind of backtrack to how we got here. Opie and Anthony became sort of like the first drinking bros podcast. Bunch of comedies in like a morning zoo type of thing where too many comedians in one room just stepping on each other, but it became extremely popular, and that led to podcasting. So this is how we got to where we are today. But tracing the history of Stern, it's kind of important if you're interested in where we are and how we got here. There's a lot to be learned from that documentary. Also, I want to let you know Eddie Brill has just been added to Friday's show. So we have Mike Binder on Friday morning, and that should be it will be very educational, probably more so for him. Now, look at me with my fucking hubris here. Mike Binder has directed many films. He's a comedian with a history that goes back to the glory days of the Comedy Store. Retired from stand-up to be a director and a filmmaker and actor. And like The Godfather, they pulled him back in. He's doing stand-up again now. He directed that Comedy Store series special for Showtime. And he's only a year older than me. But something has happened in the universe that makes a lot of people, especially comedians, which I'm finding really disturbing, leaning way hard to the right. And comedy has never done that. Never done that in the history of comedy, but now it is. We are seeing, and Mike is one of those people. I follow him on Twitter, and when I tell you, he is definitely lost sight of history as far as comedy and comedy's role in shaping the public discourse. So we're going to have a conversation about censorship and influence and all that kind of stuff and what it really means. And so it could be a little contentious. And then in the next hour, Eddie Brill, who is a legendary comic, Eddie Brill, who he nearly 4 decades has entertained audience all over the globe. He is also a writer, actor, producer, host, storyteller, and mentor to comics everywhere. For 17 years, he worked for the Late Show with David Letterman as both the audience warm-up and stand-up talent coordinator. He was the guy who booked all the comedians for Late Night with David Letterman. And that includes people like Mark Norman, Norman's very first appearance before anybody had known him. It includes Norm Macdonald. People like that got their first shot on television because of Eddie Brill. Very cool stuff. Well, Norm was actually on Star Search before Letterman, so maybe not his first shot on television, but his first shot on late night television. Anyway, he will be with me Friday. He's got a show here next Tuesday night, the same night that Jackie's documentary is coming out, July 18th. I will be there. On Friday, we'll probably be giving away a couple of tickets to that. To a caller or somebody in the chat room. We'll probably do the old spin the wheel type of thing again. Dan Madonia, I don't know Dan, is also on the bill Tuesday night at Sticks and Stones Comedy Club out here in Southampton. We are looking for big things to happen at Sticks and Stones. And Eddie Pepitone and JT Habersack are going to be there in August. JT has told me that he's going to get me some videos to promo that from both him and JT to play on the program. And we'll be starting to do that next week. So I'm looking forward to all that stuff. So that Friday, good show. Mike Binder and Eddie Brill in the same show. Should be a good one. Tomorrow, I have quite a interesting show for you. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Tomorrow, we have Laura Banks in the morning. Laura Banks is an actress, comedian, former stand-up comedian and improv comedian who was on Star Trek. She had a little go around with William Shatner, I guess was romantically involved with Shatner. Which should be an interesting conversation about that. Now she's like an astrologer, an astrologer to the stars, I guess. And I'm not big on astrology, and you probably know I kind of ridicule astrology. I mean, but so she'll be here in the first hour, and then Jason Rowland from World Series of Comedy taking place in Boston this week. Jason will be joining us from Boston, from the World Series of Comedy. We're going to talk about, because Jason does a lot of, as his main business, coaching and giving feedback. Look, I'm becoming Howie Mandel. Remember Howie with the hands? I'm doing that. I know you people on the radio side can see that. So anyway, I just got word that my glasses have been recovered, and now I have to take an hour-and-a-half trip to go. Cool. When is a good time for him to come tomorrow to pick up the glasses? Between 2 and 3:30. Yeah, that's fine. I think. See, now I'm at a weird place in life where I don't have a car because my wife's car has been in the shop since the day she was born. It feels like that. It's been about a month and a half now, and she's taking my car every day. And so I'm not sure I'm going to have my car back by tomorrow. I'll work it out, though. I got to go get my glasses. I can't wear these, like, these are not my glasses. You know my glasses. I got another pair coming from today of the round ones, the Groucho Marx glasses. I need my Groucho Marx glasses. It's just who I am. It's my identity. Anyway, so Good show tomorrow. Good show Friday. Really good show Friday, I think. And we don't have a terrible one for you here today. Robert Taylor's going to be joining me in a moment. But right now, I want to play for you a very short piece from Lori. Shorter, I guess Lori didn't feel all that energetic this week. This is only a minute-long piece, but she's got a confession to make. Oh boy, here's Lori's piece. I'm just stuttering here. It's morning, and it's time. It's time for coffee for uh, Weirdful Wednesdays with Lori S. Strikingly Hilarious.
Hello, everyone. It's Lori S. Strikingly Hilarious here with another episode of Weirdful Wednesdays. So I have a confession to make. I have implants. I don't know if you can tell here on the video, but it's tooth 18 and 19 right there. I was behind a Subaru and the vanity plate said itchy, ITCHY, and I thought, that's quite a legacy, but I would have expected it to be on a Forester. I think the premise for Meals on Wheels is a good one. However, do we really want seniors having to chase their dinner down? I've decided I'm just too old to kick anyone's butt anymore. I can't bend that far. Thanks, bye.
It feels like I don't know, maybe I don't want to say. Maybe she's feeling like I am, a little burnt out. And so that was a quick one, but I appreciate Lori's contributions. Lori S. Strikingly Hilarious. We'll put her links to her Facebook page in the description. Follow her, encourage her. She's based in Mesa, Arizona. So and working out, beginning comedy out there, and we're happy to have her contributing to the show. Vinny Vanelli's piece will be debuting next week. Vinny is doing some man on the street stuff. Last week he was in New York City. That's the first one that will air next week, and then he's going to be doing something from Montreal. And we got things going on up there. And Vinny's piece is basically Canadian American relations, Canadian knowledge of America, Canadian knowledge of America, and American knowledge of Canada. Be surprised how little we know about our neighbors and how little they know about us. So it's an amusing piece, and that will be debuting next Monday. Robert Taylor is a contributor to the program. His normal piece, thank you for your service, generally airs on Thursday, but we have a very full show tomorrow. So he's here with us now. Let's welcome. There he is. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Oh, you seem as like low energy too. Is it going around?
No, I'm up. I'm awake.
What's new in your world? You're posting some stuff. I saw shows going on. What's happening with you?
Yeah, I got shows going on. I connected with a booker up in North Carolina, actually over by your brother. This guy books like 7 nights a week in North Carolina and Virginia. And I connected with him about a month ago, and he sent me a list of shows that he had. I could only do like 1 or 2. But then Sunday, he sent me a list for next month of like the entire month and said, which shows do you want to do on his list, man? And I picked like 3 or 4 shows off of there because I got other stuff going on. But
that's cool. You get your pick of shows. That's good. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
good stuff.
I picked a few over in the Raleigh-Durham area to do over there next month in between. See, I'm still waiting to hear back on some of those festivals. I'm in a few of them, but I don't know why they wait so late.
Yeah.
Let you know. Man.
World Series of Comedy is in Boston this week. Have you heard from them at all? No.
Oh, that starts tonight.
Oh, it's tonight. I think
They're
tomorrow.
not calling
But
me now.
so you're not on. If they don't, what's the process there? They would contact you. Is it like don't call us, we'll call you type of?
No. What happens is, they have a cutoff date for when people can sign up for it, and then the next day after the cutoff date, or like 24 hours later, they post a list on the website, and it's supposed to be based on your ranking, based on your initial video that we talked about.
Yeah.
And if your name's on the list, you have 24 hours to confirm. And if you don't confirm, then they keep going down the list. And they keep doing that up until they could still be doing it yesterday. You know, if somebody cancels out on them at the last minute, or they had that happen in Texas. But usually, I think what I noticed, I mean, you can ask Jason, I'm not sure. It looked to me when I was in Texas, I mean, it couldn't just be a coincidence that 3 people canceled and the 3 people that they replaced them with just happened to be from Texas. You know, which I understand why they did it, because they want to fill the show up with comics, and no one's going to fly from halfway across the country on 24-hour notice.
Right.
You know, so they probably did the same thing up in Boston, because there's a lot of comics on there from New York and Massachusetts. And they, you know, so what probably happens is, if it's within the last few days and someone canceled, they probably just went with the highest ranking people from that region, I guess. I'm not sure. That's just my guess.
Yeah, the New York thing. Boston has enough. I don't think they're going to be drawing from New York City, because there's enough opportunity in New York City. If you're good and you're out there working anyway, you know, why take a 6-hour drive when you don't have to?
No, there's a lot of people on there from New York.
Really?
Yeah. If you look on the list, yeah, there's a lot of people on there.
I haven't looked on the list. I will look on the list before tomorrow, so I can sound like I know what the hell I'm talking about when Jason's on tomorrow.
Yeah, they start tonight. So
Ben Frank has booked a date, but not for a week now.
yeah, he goes he's in the Boston show. I think he goes on Friday night.
He he seemed like a lot of comedians, because he asked what I had open next week, and all the days I had open next week were for 9:15 slots, and you're like, well, what else you got? And so he's on the week after, the Thursday, week from tomorrow, I guess, or two weeks from tomorrow, the 27th. He's on at 10:15, and he's just like most comics don't want to get up early.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is maybe he's on the road somewhere.
No,
You know,
he's back home. He's back home. It's a time thing. It's like, you know, I'd rather come on later if I could.
You know what? You know, that kind of brings me to something I was going to talk about anyway. You know, before podcasts and the way we have it now, they had to get their asses out of bed and do morning radio.
They had to get out of their house and drive to the station.
Yeah, at 6 o'clock.
Hotel.
Yeah, but you can't do you could do a 9 o'clock Zoom cast from your bed.
Right.
You know,
I actually have had comedians on from their bed.
Yeah, I mean that just shows you how soft it's gotten. You know.
Oh, the Marine is getting all tough guy with the comedians now.
No, man. I mean, shit. 9 o'clock. Even I can get up at 9 o'clock.
I know. Even I can get up. If I can get up to do this show, anybody should be able to.
And it's not like you can't go back to bed. You know,
that's right. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, I mean, no. But it is. It's we become soft, man. You know.
Now, I don't. You know, I'm not. I'm going to get into a little bit of the comedic aspect of politics here. I'm not somebody who thinks that, and not a fan of comedians who push far left agenda. I'm not. I've never been. But far right agenda for me is totally not. It's not compatible with comedy because of the attitudes from the far right stuff. So, you know, centrist stuff, or I'm used to comedians, even when I disagree with them, having a little bit of a leftist lean. What I'm seeing now is disturbingly a hard right comedian push. I'm seeing a lot of comedians, and I know you're not on Twitter, or I don't see you on Twitter, but almost all the comedians I see on Twitter are either MAGA people, hardcore conservatives, or libertarians. And I'm not seeing any of. I mean, the people who were always on the left are still on the left. I mean, the John Fugelsang's and people like that who are.
Yeah.
But man, it's disturbing. Are you seeing that, and what's your take on that?
Well, I think what might be happening too is, in the year or so prior to COVID, we were getting all the Me Too and all that stuff, and all the hardcore right people, were hiding under rocks.
Yeah.
And then now it's starting to come back around, because that's what I was going to kind of talk about, was how that stuff's starting to fade now, and the people who are considered offensive or whatever, they're coming back with a vengeance, because they're starting to tolerate more stuff again in comedy. Because what happens is, it's just like everything else. If you go far to one extreme, eventually what happens is it comes back around, and then everybody's back on board at the other end. And that's what's happening now. Is we had all the cancel culture and all that, for a couple of years, and now everybody's fed up with it. So what happens now is we just go to the other extreme, and now those people are getting their time in the light.
Well, I think a big part of it is also, and I kind of I've talked about this so much, like with Chappelle. I look at him as a guy who used to be all about just making people laugh, and at some point he got this ego about him that he should become, a voice of opinion and all that kind of stuff. And he takes this lecture attitude now in his shows. Carlin did that to some extent, to a big extent, but he was always about trying to keep the funny in there and make people laugh. I think what we're seeing now is, and I'm looking at all these people on Twitter, they forget about trying to be funny, and it's all about now they all want to be political commentators. And for the MAGA side.
They get that bigger, once they get a bigger audience, so apparently they assume that it's their job now to lecture the world, or tell us what we need to be doing or not be doing, or correct society. Yeah, exactly. Because I tell you, man, Chappelle had that, or he may still have it, had that deal with Netflix where he had to deliver like 7 specials or whatever you want to call it, and he was just pumping stuff out. And that last one he had, I think he got an Emmy for, or something like that. That was ridiculous. That wasn't even I know comedy is subjective or whatever, but that was just that was just a joke where he got on, and then one of them wasn't even a special. It was just where he went back to his old high school and gave an award, and they counted that as one of his Netflix. It was like 20, 30 minutes or something like that, but he's not the only one. There's other ones too. But the thing I was looking at yesterday or the day before, I found this. I came across a list that was best comedians, best current comedians, or whatever. That's subjective, of course. That's subjective for everybody. But if I were to ask you to name your top 5 current comedians, they would probably be different than mine. But I found like 2 or 3 different lists, and I tried to find commonalities among the list of comedians, right? And this was just a subjective list of best comedians. And then I went and looked and found highest paid comedians in 2023, right? And then I went and found the top touring comedians, meaning revenue just generated on tour.
Right.
And there's only like 3 people that overlap on all 3 of those lists. The rest are just all over the place.
Yeah, a friend of mine who we got into an argument because he said the the highest paid comedian is Jerry Seinfeld, and I was like, no, you can't count.
Yeah, not
You can't
anymore.
count a guy who's getting residuals from a television show that's a
Well,
billionaire.
all right, here you go. This is the highest paid comedians in 2023. But here's the deal. It's like you just said. It's all the money they bring in, like from television shows, like from commercial, like whatever they do, it's just revenue, right?
Right.
Like Jerry Seinfeld second. Kevin Hart was first.
Wow.
Kevin Hart was first because he's got all kind of stuff going on. He's producing shows for other people. He's got Netflix.
Well, that changed since last year, because last year it was reversed. It was
Yeah.
Seinfeld was 1 and Hart was 2.
It
But
was
okay.
Kevin Hart, Seinfeld, and Jim Gaffigan.
And Larry David's not on there at all?
I guess they don't count him because these are just stand-up comics, and they don't count him as a stand-up comic anymore. I guess, or you got to be a touring.
I'm not sure Kevin Hart is still doing it either. I mean,
no, he does. Actually, matter of fact, he just kicked off another tour.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he was touring with Chris Rock. Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
they did. They were doing arena tours, but then if you go to from 2022, because they haven't done 23 yet, just revenue from touring. It's none of those guys. It's Sebastian Maniscalco, Gabriel Iglesias, and Joe Coy are the top 3, and Bert Kreischer is 4th.
Wow.
Yeah, those are but Chappelle, Kevin Hart is 5th, and then Chappelle was like 6th. Yeah, so I mean it's
no women. How far do you have to go down and get a woman on that list?
On the touring? There is one on the top 10. But
I mean, I'm laughing because it's just so silly.
But on the highest paid, which counts everything, Amy Schumer was on there. She was like 7th.
Oh, you got to be kidding me!
No, that's what I said. Because when was the last time? Well, she just had a special drop. But when was the last time you even heard? She's been laying low pretty lately.
I don't know anybody who's an Amy Schumer fan. Are you an Amy Schumer fan? I got anybody in the chat room?
I watched a couple of those movies that she made. They were pretty good, but they were Judd Apatow threw that together. The one train wreck or whatever it was.
Yeah.
No, honestly, but as far as stand up, I mean, she hasn't. Even though she might have done a special or whatever, I haven't heard that much about anything lately. But she did just drop a new one, I think, on Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, it's to the point where I just feel like I've been burned so many times, man. I just don't even go watch the new ones anymore. I just like, you got me the first couple of times. I'm not watching it anymore.
Well, Klein talked about the early days of HBO specials and all that kind of stuff. And this is because when you were talking about Chappelle, it kind of reminded me of that, because they give you a bunch of money, but then you got to deliver him a show. And I think that's what happened with Chappelle. He got all the money. He wasn't thinking about 7 shows. And then when it comes down to it, I got all this money. I got to give him something. So he went back to his high school and just took the lazy way out.
Yeah.
I got to deliver something. I might as well just, bring a film crew and tape whatever. And whether it's funny or not, I got to deliver something.
Well, who else got one of those deals was Adam Sandler. And he came out, I think he might have done a comedy special on there, but man, he put some stinker movies out too. Like within the last 5, oh gosh, I mean, some of them were, but he fulfilled his obligation. But yeah, it's just like you said, man. They just went through the motions. They got the money, went through the motions.
The film that Binder directed that I'm most impressed by is the Adam Sandler film. It's Rain Over Me. Remember that one? Do you remember Rain Over Me?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Don Cheadle is in that, and it's basically a 9/11 trauma.
Yeah, that wasn't a comedy.
No, it wasn't a comedy.
Yeah. Well, the other one he did too, the one where he was the jewelry, the Jewish jewelry, working in the jewelry district in New York, and he gets robbed or whatever.
Yeah.
That was all. Yeah, he got the critics love that. I guess he just likes doing something different.
Joe List has got another special coming out on YouTube now. there's a couple of things here, and this is some of the stuff I'm going to go into with Binder, and yeah, I can be a broken record anyway, talk about the same shit all over and over again, but I think because Joe List just dropped a special like 2 months ago, and the frequency is getting, it used to be a year every, now people are doing just crowd work special. Steve Byrne did just a crowd work special and just put that out. He did it at the stand. It's like anything to keep putting more content out. I
Yeah,
think comedy is like becoming a manufacturing machine rather than an artistic machine, right? It's coming for, we need to keep putting out content every day, to feed the beast, rather than thinking, what do I really want to do? What statement do I want to make? How do I do something really special? That's one part of my observation there. And the other part is YouTube, for everything people think maybe it's getting them exposure and stuff. It's not getting rich. It's not having a Netflix special. There's a big difference between Netflix paying you $500,000 for this special up front, and then a piece of the points on it as
yeah,
it goes, as opposed to putting it on you, doing all the production costs yourself, putting it on YouTube and getting 0.0006 cents per stream every time after that. There's a huge
yeah.
difference in that.
Hey, I wonder if you probably know, did Louis C.K. produce Joe List?
Yes.
Loose
Yeah.
Fat? Yeah, I thought he probably he's doing it for a few of those guys now. He's starting to produce. I think Louis done with the stand up.
I don't know. He did a couple of guest spots at Governors.
Or what I think he's doing for a while. I
Yeah.
think he's going to do some other production stuff, and then maybe he'll come back 2 or 3 years and do a comeback special or something like that.
Yeah.
But as far as that YouTube stuff, like on mine, I've noticed that people are doing like they'll do crowd work stuff just so they can post it on YouTube. What I did was I was like, God, what can I do differently? So I went back because I video all my stuff just when I'm doing open mics and stuff too. But when I was like, what does nobody put on there? I said, why don't I just put on there when I'm eating shit all the time? So I'll actually, if you look at my YouTube shorts, 99% of them are stuff that I don't do. It's not worked out. It's like stuff the first time I try it, and the ones that get the best, well, not always, but the ones that are consistently getting the most views are ones where I bomb, and I'll put it in the titles like such and such joke bombs or whatever. And they love that stuff. They're watching on it, but also I put in the description that I'm trying to show the process. Where I go up on stage and I'm honestly trying to work out a joke that I think could have some kind of potential. And this is what it looks like when you don't know and you try it out. Sometimes it doesn't work. Or it might just get a little laugh or it turns into something different.
Yeah, that it's so hard to gauge. I don't know. From my perspective, it's so hard to gauge when things are really landing. When you're killing it, but just because it doesn't get an outward response, it could be the energy at that time. It could be, a lot of people laugh on the inside.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too is if usually like if I get some kind of reaction where even like a lot of times, like I did this show this past weekend. I forget if it was like a Stephen Hawking joke or a funeral home joke, necrophilia joke or something. But it was like the whole audience like, oh. But that was a reaction. It got everyone in there reacted the same way. So I knew there was something to it. There's something to that joke. If I can figure out how to make it less offensive, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it has potential to be funny, and it sure gets a reaction. So, and sometimes that just kind of perpetuates what I'm trying to do on stage is take them into something darker or edgier. It's like they know what's coming now after that, But yeah, well, like you're saying, just because you do a joke and you don't get a big laugh or whatever, doesn't mean it can't be a good joke. It's like I was talking to this guy yesterday. He hasn't been doing comedy that long, and even now, sometimes I have jokes that I'll go back or I'll find, and like, yeah, and really, what happens is if you come up with a premise, and you're like, oh, that's pretty funny, and other people even say, yeah, man, that could be funny or whatever. But then you try it on stage, you try to write jokes on stage, and it's not working. Sometimes it's just because you don't have the skills to know how to write the joke properly.
Right.
What you don't know what structure will work for it properly, and you got to mess around with it, and then all of a sudden you might tell it a different way, or you might switch and make the punchline the setups, anything, or you might just do something differently with it, and all of a sudden it clicks. You just didn't understand why it wasn't working. And then sometimes somebody like Jason that you're gonna have on tomorrow, like he's done that with me on a couple of jokes. He'll say, "Hey, man, why don't you try doing this with it, or switching around, or say this instead of that?" And then it works.
Yeah, it's good stuff. You know what? The best singers work with vocal coaches. I think the best comedians should at least consult other, comedian coaches, and that's what Jason is. I know he doesn't call himself that, but really, that's what he is. I kind of want to switch gears here because
All right.
last night on YouTube, I caught this Tim Dillon ranting about censorship, YouTube censorship, and how he was kind of threatening to go someplace else, and it's like,
Where are you going?
well, you can go lots of other places. This is
he's on the Rogan. He's on the Rogan gravy train too.
Right. Well, he's talking about. Well, first of all, I don't think censorship can exist outside of government. I think censorship is the province of government, not a private business. You can't go into a comedy club and demand time, right? You can't. YouTube is basically a public business that anybody can go into, but you sign an agreement before they give you a channel that you have to abide by their rules or you will get a strike. So you know that up front. But I've been in this streaming game longer than anybody. I did the original Coffee with the Dog show in 1994 on AOL.
Right.
And it was a postage video. But at that time, I bought my own streaming server and was doing streaming stuff. Now it's incredibly cheap. There are lots of services you can go out. If you have the following, you can do your own, and with free from any censorship, you buy your own streaming server and you can put it out there to millions of people, reach them reliably. You don't need YouTube. What you need YouTube for is to be in their public square where people are going looking for that stuff, so you get the recommendations and stuff. But that's why they get to call the shots. And listen, as somebody who's been given a strike by them, I understand the frustration, but I did sign that agreement that I would live by their rules and understand that this is their business. You can't go into a comedy club and just start shouting whatever you want and not get thrown out. If you're fun, even if you're on stage, you get the light means get off the stage. That's
what was he saying? What was he saying he was getting canceled from? YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? That's bullshit, because that's part of his whole appeal and his whole shtick is that the people that come see him for that. And he gets away with more than most other people because he's gay. And he tells a lot of freaking homophobic stuff and gay stuff that I can't say because I'm straight. He gets away with a lot of that crap. And and his crowd loves that. They come and see him. So that's part of his little marketing thing too. Is I'm so edgy. I'm so off the cuff. I'm getting canceled. You guys need to help me out. So yeah, he's not getting canceled anywhere.
Yeah. And no, but he's worried about getting strikes and stuff like that. And the truth is, after 3 strikes, they will put you out. But I made an observation yesterday, not a popular observation because a lot of people love Tim Dillon. I'm not a big fan of his, but I said the only difference between Tim Dillon and Rosie O'Donnell is Rosie can sing and act. And I never liked Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is kind of. Yeah,
He is. He's a gay. She started as a stand-up on Long Island,
yeah.
and she's gay, and she has very, very strong opinions and wants to force those opinions on.
Well,
And
that's what I was
wants
going to say. He purposely pushes buttons. Well, guess what? There's pushback. If you're
right.
gonna push, there's pushback. And it's like you said, you got to play by the rule. If you want to make money on someone's platform, then you got to play by their rules. That's just all, you know.
Absolutely. And again, when I was doing it for Hair Designer TV in the mid 2000s, somewhere 2006, 2000, we were streaming. You would be shocked to know how hairdressers draw like the Super Bowl. We had NAHA, North American Hairdresser Awards in Vegas every year. It was a big event at Mandalay Bay, sold out, ballroom and all this stuff, and all these celebrities there. And we would stream the event to 50, 60,000 people on our private streaming service then. So
Right.
there are options. Now, I'm on Rumble, but I get censored on Rumble for the opposite of what I would get censored on, strikes on for YouTube. So Rumble doesn't give you strikes; they just refuse to air your content. They cut
Right.
it off and say, "We don't approve of this message. It's just not," and you don't get a strike for it. YouTube will give you a strike, and if you do it too many times, 3 times, you're out. 3 strikes and you're out rule. I think they have the right to do that, and I think these guys who are just complaining about it, and this is one of the things Binder is complaining about, the Roseanne thing.
Right.
And I think YouTube had every right to say, we don't want that on our platform. And that's not cancel culture. That's not censorship. You want to say that, go do it someplace else. Go buy your own fucking server and do it. And you got the money for it. You're not going to do it in our business.
You know what I noticed too? I guess unless it's just me, when I'll create those YouTube short videos and I'll do the hashtags, like a lot of the words I'll try to, you type the hashtag and it'll come up with the popular ones that are already in the system or whatever.
Right.
If it's anything that's like sex or like I had pedophile, I was trying to hashtag the jokes, none of them come up. Like they don't let them come up on the things. I noticed that. I guess you could do it manually, but they don't come up. They don't even, and I know good and well, I'm not the only one trying to put that in there to get views about the jokes or whatever. So
I guess they just don't, whatever the algorithm doesn't associate pedophilia with humor.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, but if you want to play the game, you got to play by the rules, I guess. Until somebody comes up with something else. But as far as Twitter, I had a Twitter account. I finally closed it down. I haven't been on there, man, for a couple of years because it just got to where there was trolls, man. Like I was doing this thing where I would write a new joke every day and I would just post it up there. Post a joke about something every day, and I'll be damned if people weren't on there freaking critiquing and bashing the joke. I was just I was just putting it up there just to do it. I didn't want your opinion on it or I was just doing it, just do it. And then I was like, man, I don't need this shit. And I just got off.
Ian says, what the fuck? You were streaming radio back in 94. No, I was streaming video back in 94. In 97 or 98 with Winamp, I first started doing the radio, internet radio stuff. What happened when I started, long story short, I got kicked off of television. I had Mind Dog TV on local television here on Long Island. It was not public access. It was paid, bought access on cable time, so I could do my own sponsorship and all that kind of stuff. And I got thrown off of that. I have a history of getting thrown out of places. But and basically I had no other platform to go, so I created my own, which is what I'm saying that all these comedians could do. It's so cheap now, affordable now. It's so practical.
Well, Bill Burr has, what's the one of his? It's called he's got all these comics, man. He's got George Lopez, Bill Burr. There's quite a few of them. I forget what it's called. Is All Things Comedy? No.
Oh yeah. All Things Comedy is a big thing, right?
Is that it?
I don't know if Bill Burr owns
you can tell you can tell because if you look at the George Lopez podcast or the Bill Burr one where he does the videos, they're all in the same exact room at the same exact table and everything.
Yeah.
I think it's called ATC, All Things Comedy.
Yeah. All Things Comedy is, but they don't do more than just live streams and stuff like that. They
Yeah,
host
that's
specials
Bill
and all that shit.
Burr. That's
Yeah.
Bill Burr.
I did
Yeah,
not know
but
that.
what he's done is they've created their own network. I think Will Ferrell has that one comedy or laugh or die or funny or die or something like that.
Yeah.
But those guys, yeah, you're right. I can't believe Rogan hadn't gone ahead and created his own network now.
Well, he's on Spotify. He can. He's
Yeah,
done
no,
an
that's what I'm
exclusive.
saying, though. He could easily do it. Take Tim Dillon, Shane Gillis, and all these other people and put them on there. Put all their podcasts on there. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure he could do it. I don't know how long his Spotify deal goes.
He's not getting canceled for anything he says on his. That's why he got off of YouTube and went on with Spotify.
But he's still on YouTube, which is so weird to me. He's got this exclusive with Spotify, but he still puts his clips on YouTube. And if you were so inclined, you could put all those clips together and get the full show. Because he cuts the entire show up into smaller clips and still puts it on YouTube. And they don't, because he played the Roseanne Theo Von thing in its entirety. Not in entirety, but the clip that he claimed that got them taken off of YouTube, and YouTube didn't do anything. That says to me either YouTube is inconsistent with enforcement of their own rules.
No, that's what. Well, he said. I was watching an interview, and even he said this. He said that what happened was when he was just full time on YouTube, they started demonetizing a lot of his videos for stuff. And so once he made this deal with Spotify, all of a sudden now they'll let him get away with stuff on YouTube now because they want to keep him on there because he's he's got such a following. They figured, well, we'll just let him get away with a little stuff because we'll still get all those views on here.
Yeah. Well, YouTube, this is the most important takeaway for people. YouTube's not the only player on the block. You can go other places, and if you the only benefit, again, coming back to YouTube, is the recommendations. It is the town square where more people are going to go to seek you out. Yeah. But if you're good enough at marketing and getting the word out, that you can go to my website and stream. This is what Alex Jones did. He's not on it. He bought his own server, and Glenn Beck did the same thing. Now, I'm not fans of either one of those guys, but the business model, it's not. You don't need a fortune to do your own streaming and collect your own 100% of your own revenue then and sell. Nobody wants to sell their own advertising and get advertisers to say, come on my network. That's a sales job, and nobody wants to do that. They want to be lazy. But you can't have everything in life. You can't be in the public square and not abide by the rules. And
I see Ian put on there, Rogan is censoring himself for the money. That's funny because I was just listening to Rogan interviewing Oliver Stone last week, and it's funny how when he gets like his normal guests that come on regularly, or maybe another comic or something like that, it never fails, man. Somehow or another, he always makes his way into these conspiracy things about COVID and ivermectin and all this stuff like that. But when he had Oliver Stone on there, he was he was tiptoeing on eggshells. You could tell he was heading that way. He'd starting to get going in there, but he was backing off and he was like deferring to Oliver Stone's opinion and stuff like that. He wasn't going all in. And if you notice, every now and then when he's got someone on there who he knows can call him out on the bullshit or is going to push back, he doesn't go in all, like he does all in with his theories about, this is, no one should have done this and this. And basically but I noticed that I was listening to the Oliver Stone thing, and there were so many times, man, in that video where he caught himself, where he normally would go all in, and you could tell he would slow down and he would stop and he would just wait to see what Oliver Stone was going to say.
Yeah.
And then if he didn't agree, then he wouldn't go in with him. It was a lot of stuff. It was about And there was some of the stuff where Rogan usually goes all in on, because Oliver Stone's got a new video coming out about nuclear energy and stuff, and he's pro nuclear energy, and
What's it?
Rogan,
Is he pro nuclear energy?
nuclear energy, not like for nuclear bombs and all
No,
that.
I get it.
Yeah,
But
he is. Oliver Stone is, and he's saying, I don't want to get, you have to watch the thing, but they would get sidetracked a little bit sometimes about other things, like COVID or this or that, and Rogan was starting to go in on his normal things, rants, whatever like that. But he was really careful because Oliver Stone would just kind of say something like, yeah, well, I don't know. He wouldn't agree with it. Oliver Stone he didn't disagree with it, but he didn't jump on the bandwagon. And Rogan he could feel like Rogan was sensing that, okay, I probably need to back off a little bit on that, because it wasn't gonna, how he goes through those tirades where he'll have a guest on there. Next thing you know, Rogan's going for 20 minutes nonstop. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Yeah. He didn't do that.
my biggest problem with Rogan is he doesn't, because I said this several times already. Him and Jon Stewart both, Jon Stewart on the left, and Rogan doesn't even believe he's on the right, but Rogan is on the right. But they both hid behind, I'm just a comedian.
Yeah.
And that's fine to say. You can be just a comedian and just be sharing your opinion. But Rogan goes farther than this is my opinion, like with the Ray Epps stuff. And there's a video on my channel if people want to see about this, where Rogan calls out Ray Epps as a member of the feds, working with the feds on January 6th. And he says, anybody who doesn't believe that is a fucking moron. That's not opinion now. That's telling your 11 million cult followers that if you don't believe what I believe, you're a fucking moron. And I called him out on this, and he, of course, is not going to respond to me. But I actually called Ray Epps and had a conversation with him. I called his neighbors and said, do you know the man for 30 years? He's been a farmer, and he owns a catering hall, and he does wedding stuff. He's been a part of that community for 35 years. He hasn't left that community. There's no way he could have been more. I even called the feds and said, is there any way somebody could be out in Arizona running a farm and a wedding and putting all his efforts and energy into running a catering hall and still be an active FBI agent? They said, are you out of your fucking mind? FBI is a full-time job. We don't hire wedding caterers and farmers to occasionally come in and just and he never had that conversation with Ray Epps. He got it off the internet. He took a clip and said, well, if you don't believe this guy is with the feds, you're a fucking moron. I mean, but without thinking that his words have now, he's risen to the point where his words have so much weight with people that they make life decisions based on what he says. You can no longer hide behind, I'm just a comedian, especially when you're telling people who would jump off the ledge for you that if you don't believe what I believe, you're a fucking moron.
Well, yeah, and that was like when he was doing all the ivermectin stuff like that. He said, don't listen to me, folks. I'm not a doctor, but this, and then he goes in that. But also he forgets to throw the part in there about how he's paying medical staff. You remember when he said, I tested positive for COVID and I was better the next day. Well, guess what? I tested positive for COVID too, and I was working out the whole time because I didn't have freaking bad symptoms.
The first time I tested for positive for COVID, I felt nothing. I was fine the whole time.
Yeah. So, and he says, I took ivermectin and stuff and I was better 2 days later. Well, yeah, but in a real scientific study, there would have been a group that didn't take ivermectin, and would they have felt just as good 2 days later too?
Yeah.
You don't know it, but he also, a lot of the things he talks about, he also fails to remind everybody about. He's got all the money that he can afford every possible thing that you would need that the normal every listener can't afford.
Yeah, he got the kitchen sink thrown at it. Absolutely. Yeah. And here's the other thing, that for people on the because it's easy to be angry at Big Pharma and think, well, they're behind this whole fucking conspiracy, right? It's easy to go there. But here's the thing people forget. ivermectin is put out by Big Pharma, and they
No
make
shit.
tons of profit off of
Yeah.
ivermectin. Why would
Yeah.
they be trying to suppress something that they're making profit off of?
If they can, yeah.
doesn't-
If you don't think that if they knew that it was proven that it was going to help get rid of COVID, if you don't think they would have been at the forefront selling ivermectin, because they would have been getting richer too off of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they knew that they couldn't come out and say that, you
Yeah.
know, because they were liable for. Yeah, you were exactly right, man. That's well, and yeah, and you can't be against Big Pharma for one thing, but for Big Pharma for 99% of the other time when you need penicillin, or when you need whatever medication you need for some other condition
Right.
that you have. You know, that's just the way it goes, man.
Yeah. It's a tough thing to get medical costs and prescription drug costs under control, but to say that everything's a big conspiracy. Now, I wanted to switch gears here a little bit more before we say goodbye, and a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about: the Mel Gibson film and this Titanic conspiracy theory. Let's start with the Mel Gibson film. Are you aware of the Mel Gibson film and know what it's about and all that stuff?
I don't think so.
Okay, he's got the Sounds of Freedom, and it's
Okay,
supposed to
I've
be.
heard. Okay, tell me about it, because I've seen stuff in the last day or so. Even people I know posting stuff on there, but I don't know what they're talking about.
It's about rampant pedophilia rings that are not just Hollywood, but all worldwide. There's Epstein Islands everywhere,
Okay.
and it's all QAnon regurgitated stuff. Now, the problem I have with it is Mel Gibson's been part of Hollywood for 45 years. Since he came from Australia, he's been a mainstay of the Hollywood establishment. And if he was that close to the main cog in the wheels of, he had to have known about this all
Yeah.
along. So if he's coming out and saying Hollywood has always been a pedophilia, machine,
Right.
he had to have known about it the whole 45 years. Why are you coming out with it now? Are you ashamed that you were part of keeping it secret for all those years? Or any shame there? Nobody's asking him that tough question. Like, so you're breaking the secret now. Why? What took you so fucking long?
That's the same thing with Harvey Weinstein deal. And all of a sudden, when he finally got called out on it and everything went down with the Me Too, then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, everybody knew about that for 3 decades.
Right.
Well, why wasn't anybody talking about it? What? Because they were getting paid. They were getting jobs. They were part of his system. They didn't want to rock the boat, But then all of a sudden, they knew Harvey was once it got to that point where everybody figured out Harvey was done, then everybody's jumping on the bandwagon.
Right.
Why? I don't know. Why is Mel Gibson making this movie? Well,
he definitely has a very strong Catholic Christian agenda. That's what the whole Passion of Christ was about. But he's also I deserve a fucking blowjob because I'm Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
People forget that part about him. And
I was wondering because some of the people I know that are hardcore right or whatever have been making comments like the last day or two on Facebook. One this morning I saw about something about how they got it right on or something. And I'm sitting there like, what is this movie about?
It's really about nothing. It's based on somebody's story that's not been validated in any way, and it's a personal story. And the guy who wrote the story was adamant that he wanted the guy who played Jesus in Passion of Christ to play him in this movie. Like, come on, where are you going with this? Anyway, and listen, I don't have any doubt that pedophilia is very rampant. There are kid fuckers out there, but I don't think they have meetings and plan.
Like a club, like a country club.
It's not part of. You don't go to meetings and share your plan to fuck kids or cover it up.
That goes back to what kind of like what I was thinking there. about how they're saying, oh yeah, it was a conspiracy, election fraud conspiracy back in 2020, stuff like that. But the odds of that being able to happen are it won't happen because you got to have everybody on board. And as soon as somebody feels slighted or something goes wrong, one person's going to talk. That's all it takes.
All it takes is one
All it
person
takes
to
is
talk.
one person. And you know, if you got all those people and they got a little pedophile ring going, something's going to happen within that group. Somebody's going to get pissed off because he didn't get this or that. And next thing you know, there's an expose and they're busting the cops. It can't happen, man. It just can't happen.
Well, I agree, but here's the thing with the conspiracy theories and how the Titanic thing revealed a lot to me, because lately, since the sub thing, the Titanic conspiracy theory has come back to life, and it's growing new legs. I'm not sure if you know about the Titanic conspiracy, but here's the theory that they put out there. J.P. Morgan and a bunch of other bankers were going to wanted to have the universal banking system known as the Fed in place in the United States. J.P. Morgan owned the Titanic and wanted to make sure that everybody who was against the idea of the Fed was on that boat, and got them all on the boat. Everybody who opposed the idea of the Fed were on the boat. And J.P. Morgan was scheduled to be on the boat, and other people were scheduled to be on the boat who were for the imposition of the Fed, and they all canceled within like hours of the launch of the boat, and decided to change their mind and not be on the cruise. And sure enough, it went down, and they were saying J.P. Morgan was responsible. Told the captain, just go straight into that fucking iceberg. And that's taking new legs now. But it has a grain of truth that gets fabricated, stretched, and outright lied about. Morgan did own the Titanic. That's a fact. It was billed as the millionaire's steamboat in the initial voyage, but he had left for Paris about a month before, because the French government was going to confiscate all his works of art and tell him he could not take them out of country. So he was in France at the moment and could not take the trip. He wanted to take the trip, but he was saving his millions and millions of dollars worth of artwork investments that were in Paris. He was trying to get them out of country before the French government confiscated them. The guys who were on the boat, actually, the bankers who were on the boat, were actually written articles for the Fed. They were not against it, but they take that grain of truth and make it so that if you hear them tell the story, it sounds like, wow, that sounds awful fishy, right? And then they run with that. And every time, it's like telephone. Every time it goes from one conspiracy theorist to the next, they add another layer of fabrication. Well, what if we just twist it a little more and stretch the truth just a little more to say this? And then all of a sudden it becomes, wow, you can't deny that. That seemed like it was a plot, man.
Yeah, see, that comes back to it again, though. It's not like the captain's just standing up there steering the boat himself.
He died, by the way. He went down with the boat.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Was you'd have to talk all the people up on the bridge that were helping control the boat or whatever. Hey guys, we're going to run into this. Let's just keep going for this iceberg. When at some point, if I'm up there, I'm thinking that's not happening.
Right.
We're throwing your ass over. But yeah, he went down with the boat. So I don't care how much money you offer me. If I'm the captain, I'm not taking it, because I'm not going to get the money, spend the money if I'm going down with the boat.
Right. And you don't send out distress signals and rescue signals trying to get, if that's your, and you don't have lifeboats there for the bankers that were on the boat. I mean,
that would make a good movie, though. That plot makes a good movie. It probably will be now. It's
been a conspiracy theory for a long time, but it's growing new legs because of the sub thing. Because now they're saying the Chase Bank and J.P. Morgan's legacy of banking bombed the sub. It wasn't an implosion; they bombed it.
That's what I was saying. That's what I thought you were going to say. That it was a submarine or something. But
it's crazy.
Like those freaking Da Vinci Code movies. Right? It's the same thing. They take all this stuff from the Bible and all this other stuff, and they're like, when you can make almost anything sound like whatever you want it to sound like.
You know, besides that, the Da Vinci Code, of course, it was, but it wasn't even Dan Brown. Dan Brown stole that. You talk about plagiarism. I had the guy who wrote the book on, I forget his name, Jack something. Fuck. But Jack wrote the first book. He showed it to Dan Brown. Dan Brown took his work and it was a complete work of fiction. He showed it to Dan Brown. Dan Brown stole it and put it out there and told the world that it was the truth and it was nonfiction. I had the guy on the program 3 years ago or so. He's been suing Dan Brown forever, but Hollywood got behind it now and all the money with the lawyers. And so they've been holding this case up for years and years and years. But if you look at his manuscript and Dan Brown's work, there's no question that he stole it. It was completely lifted. I don't know. I'm really troubled by all the way we've become what Orwell had predicted. I never would have thought that we would be in a place where people are just so willingly just diving into conspiracy theories and bullshit without even lifting a finger to check anything out. They just want to believe.
I was what was I don't know if it was that clip I sent you about Roseanne on Pierce Morgan or whatever, but I was watching something like yesterday or today, and it was exactly what you were talking about the other day. I don't know if it was if you watch it, I can't remember now, but I think either he or either even Roseanne might have even said something about if people would just take the time to do a little research on their own.
Right.
I think it was in that interview.
It was
talking about people not taking the time to do their own research, or they'd know that she knew what she was talking about. You got to say it, man. She starts the video off. You can tell she's trying to cover her ass. She starts the video off talking about how she's Ukrainian. Right. Her ancestors were murdered.
Let me go one step further. She says she's from the Ukraine. Yeah, my people are from the Ukraine, and anybody who was Ukrainian would know it's not the Ukraine, it's Ukraine. But so that's but also she's always been full of making these statements. She said she was raped by her father. Her family confronted her on that, and then she had to come out and say, "No, I made that up." I mean, so I don't believe she has any heritage going back to Ukraine whatsoever. But now she's trying to claim that she's Ukrainian, and she's from the Ukraine, but she wants to claim that, well, people don't know there's lots of Nazis and Zelensky's not a good Jew. There are good Jews and bad Jews.
Yeah. That's what I was watching, and I was like, man, she's just digging herself in and deep. But you know what though? Doesn't matter, because she had a special come out about and all of a sudden now she's starting to tour up, and this is just generating publicity. People are gonna. Again, it's that people that already liked her in the first place, they're going to come and see the tour just because they're like, oh, it's Roseanne, oh yeah, she's giving them hell and all that. But yeah, man, it's that same thing of if people would take the time. But even if you take the time to do your own research, now you got to worry about, all right, where's this research coming from?
Right.
Because people can put anything and some people will go to Wikipedia to get their research, not realizing that I could contribute to Wikipedia.
Right.
I could contribute on someone's Wikipedia page.
Roseanne could be writing Wikipedia.
Yeah. You're right, man. You're exactly right. But you know what though? You got some good shows, some good guests coming on these next 2 days. So
yeah.
Hopefully when you get Mike Binder on there,
I'm a little bit worried that that's going to get contentious, even though I respect the work the man's done. I think it's surprising to me that people who used to have some reality check in their lives just have completely gone over the edge. And I think he has. I follow him a lot. And this morning he was talking about RFK Jr., he retweeted this thing about how the left is just afraid of RFK Jr. because all he does is speak the truth. Well, what? No, He doesn't just speak the truth. He's a fucking he's a QAnon conspiracy theorist.
He speaks what he believes is the truth. Is what there's a difference.
I'm not even sure he believes all of it. I think
Yeah.
he's well. I guess you're right, but I think he's convinced himself of what he. And Rogan even said this the other day because he was posting some UFO stuff. He goes, "I'm such a sucker for this. I want to believe so badly. I want to believe so badly that." That's a statement in itself that says I'm only going to look at stuff that evidence that validates my want to believe, but I'm going to ignore everything that invalidates my
It's
want.
a confirmation bias, right?
Yeah.
It's just where if it doesn't fit what I believe, then it's false.
Yeah,
And I can come up, and if you're doing your own research, what's going to happen is, if you Google whatever you're searching for, and it comes up and shows you all the options, well, you're actually going to skim. You're not going to look at everyone. You're going to skim through, and if you see one that confirms what you're thinking, right, your opinion, you're going to click right on that one, and you're going to go on that one, and then you're more likely to click on the ones that agree with what you think with than the ones that don't.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, well, yeah, I got this. I got this. This supports what I'm talking about. This supports what I'm talking about. And then, sure, see, I was right. You could do that on anything now, man. It's crazy. So yeah, that's the thing is, where do you get your research? And then you got to be able to actually weed through, or you got to actually, what happens is, you have to want to find the truth. You have to want to find the truth. You have to separate yourself from wanting to find what you believe. It's like they say when you go in a court of law, it's not what you believe, it's what you can prove.
Right.
Right. But even though in a court of law you can twist that too. But really, you actually, I think most people don't want to know the truth. They just want to know what confirms what they already believe.
I'm baffled by the whole thing, but
Yeah,
I know. I'm not in a good place about it. I'm very frustrated about just the attitude in the world right now. It's like I do think fascism to some degree is in style, and people are okay with fascism. Like we've forgotten the lessons of the 20th century.
I think a lot of it, man, is fear and uncertainty. And people, what happens is, the pie is so big, there's only so many slices of the pie. And when people feel like someone's infringing on their slice of the pie, they become uncertain and fearful that they're going to lose part of their slice of the pie. And if there's something out there that supports them keeping their slice of the pie, some ideology or whatever, then that's where they're more likely to go, is with whatever's going to help them keep their slice of the pie.
Right.
Right. In an ideal situation, everybody would have the same slice of pie and we'd all be happy with our slice of the pie, but that's not reality.
Yeah. Right.
That's not reality. So people are, I'm like you too. I'm like, frustrated, that is like that. Why can't people get along? Why can't people be happy with having a decent life? Why does someone have to be a multi-gazillionaire? Right? It doesn't make sense. You never spend that much money in your life. And the world's not gonna last long enough now to where we're going for your dependence for future generations to have it. So it's just
money and influence are both addicting. I mean, the more power you get, the more money you get, the more you want. At least for most people, I would definitely not. I would not succumb to that. I need more money. I don't even feel like I need more money now. I feel like, you know what, I think I talked about this last week. This going out to gigging, and on the weekend, it's summertime. It's the time I live for. I'm out playing music. The world is good, and I think part of the fascist movement is telling people and getting them to believe in man, we're all going to hell. Life is terrible. Things are so bad. Things are not that bad. And
Yeah.
generally, day-to-day people, day-to-day lives of people are not that bad. They're still watched the All-Star game last night from their an 8-foot screen in a comfortable couch, drinking whatever. I mean, life is pretty good.
Well, we
But
have a
people
distorted
believe it.
perception. We have a
Yeah.
distorted perception in America anyway, compared to the rest of the world. Poverty in America means you're driving an SUV and you're
You
eating
have to settle for an Android
fast
instead of
food
an
every day.
iPhone, right?
Yeah, you're eating fast food every day, but you had to downsize and you just have the basic cable and NFL plan,
Right.
or whatever. That's poverty in the U.S.
Yeah.
But there was some, they did this study, and I can't remember the exact number, but it's around. They said at this certain point of income that it really doesn't make you any happier to make more money. Than it was like $75,000. It said once you get to a $75,000, more money doesn't really necessarily make you happier. It might make you can get more things and stuff, but you're at a point where you're living comfortably. You can go out and do stuff. You can go on a vacation. You're not starving. You got, like you said, you can watch the All-Star game, but you don't have your own private jet and stuff like that. But you're not hurting.
Right.
You're not
Well,
hurting.
and there's plenty of, if people open up their eyes, there's plenty of evidence. Elvis Presley, you couldn't get more famous or wealthy
He was
than
miserable.
him. He was a miserable fuck. Michael Jackson was a miserable fuck.
Howard
Prince was a
Hughes.
miserable fuck.
Howard Hughes.
Yeah, Howard Hughes was a miserable fuck.
Yeah.
All these people who the love of money and power and influence, it doesn't make you happy. And that's a simple lesson to learn. But people, I guess it's so seductive. It's a very hot bitch.
Well, I think what happens is, like, if you do come into a lot of it or whatever, initially you get that rush because you can do things you couldn't do.
Right.
You could get a private jet, but then after a while, you're kind of alienated because now you got to worry about people trying to take your money or threaten your family or threaten you, or then you start worrying about things that you didn't have to worry about. Losing your money.
Right. My wife was talking because she's very religious. She calls that all these people are just willing to sell their souls, whether you believe in that stuff or not. Souls and whatever, people are willing to sell themselves out, their dignity and their sense of well-being. You don't need to keep doing what you're doing if it's causing you heartache and trouble. And when somebody and I'm going to go back to Dylan or Rogan, complaining about people trying to, people always attacking them and they can't say anything. I always feel you have the power to just step away from that and stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you don't need it. You don't need the more millions of dollars that are coming with it all the time. You don't need that anymore. You have that ability and, to just walk away and say, fuck it. I don't need this.
It's like a drug, man. It's like a drug that they're addicted to the celebrity or addicted to the power. It's power.
Yeah, the power. And knowing that, 11 million people were listening to you every day, it's got to be, an aphrodisiac of some sort. I mean, but it's not worth it, which is why I said, and I mean this, I am happy flying under the radar. Of course, I want a small audience of dedicated people, but I would not ever want what Rogan has in terms of responsibility that he shuns for everything I say and having to deal with, because I know I have opinions that can be misleading, can be wrong, all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to be responsible for somebody making a life decision based on what I say ever.
Yeah, man.
People do. And I don't think I know he recognizes that at some point, because when he's arguing with Sanjay Gupta from CNN, he's talking about how his influence eclipses all of cable media news and all that stuff. And then in the same breath, well, I'm just a comedian. No, you just admitted
he said
your influence.
Not only did he admit that, but he kept saying on there, I don't want people listening to me and taking medical advice from me. And then he'll on 100 shows in a row, he'll be saying, "Hey, I did this. This helped me. That's all. These people are telling lies. We know this is a lie. This, and you're doing the opposite. You can't have it both ways. You know, like say, oh, I'm just a comedian or whatever like that. You know."
Yeah. I think we're done with that. Anyway, you got shows coming up this weekend. Anything to promote? Anything you want to let people know about?
No, I got a show next. I got one next week. Another one of those improv shows. I'm closing out an improv show in Virginia.
Nice.
And I think I'm actually going up by your brother on July 22nd.
July 22nd. That's
I think
next week.
22nd in Durham, North Carolina. I have to look and see.
I don't know if it's closer to Raleigh or Durham. I don't even know the area.
Durham is right next to Raleigh. It's called the Triangle.
So that's a week from this Saturday, the 22nd. Yeah, July 22nd. Yeah, good. I will definitely send him to that one if I can. I don't know. He hasn't been doing that well lately, but Sunday he was kind of not. He was kind of feeling like a guy who's dying. He hasn't been feeling
if he goes outside, he will, because it's brutal down here right now, man.
Yeah,
it is.
I know it was brutal everywhere. But even it was 94 yesterday. I was playing at the VA, and I just got done. And Mikey's birthday was yesterday, and I was talking to him on the phone. And I said, "Yeah, it's hot out here." He goes, "It's not human. My shirt tells a different story. I'm out here, 94 degrees. It's humid enough that my shirt was wet."
Last Wednesday, the day after July 4th, my air conditioning went out. It was 86 degrees in my house at midnight that night. Oh my God. And the AC guy didn't show up the next day when he was supposed to, so I had to go 2 days without air conditioning, man. I was like,
that happened to me. I went and slept out in my car and turned the air conditioning on and turned the car on, put the air conditioning.
It was cooler outside than it was in the house anyway. I know. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Lastly, before I let you go, were you ever a fan of Star Trek?
When I was a kid, it was in syndication. I know the lady you got coming on tomorrow.
You do?
I'm gonna watch that. I see how she was banging Captain Kirk.
I never watched. Oh boy, people! I'm gonna get hate mail for saying this. I never watched a single episode of Star Trek. Never. Not one.
They didn't really. They only had like 3 seasons. It was only on like 3 seasons.
Right, but then they had extra.
All the other stuff.
Star Trek. But 9 to whatever the hell.
I was listening to William Shatner's making the rounds. He's got something going on. I listened to an interview with him a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about
94 years old or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Fucking amazing. Fucking
he's
amazing.
He's got his mental stuff going on still. You talk about conspiracy theories. Holy shit. He was on there talking all kinds of stuff. But
he's always been like a crazy drama queen to begin with. I mean,
as far as the show, man, when I was a kid, it wasn't like now where they have all these cable channels with reruns. We only had like 3 channels on TV, and if you could catch the old Batman TV show, or Star Trek, or the Mod Squad, or something like that.
Oh, Mod Squad, cool.
Yeah, those were big ones. But Star Trek, man, I didn't. When those movies came out, I think I watched the first one. Or whatever. I could take it or leave it. I wasn't a big.
I don't know anything about it, and that's going to be exposed tomorrow when I'm talking to Laura Banks about this, because I know nothing about it.
Yeah, she'll probably tell some stories William Shatner's not telling.
Yeah. For William Shatner fans out there, you should check out a movie from like 1975. It's called Big Bad Mama. Stars Shatner and Angie Dickinson. It's like softcore porn.
Yeah.
They don't make.
She was in she wasn't in T.J. Hooker. What was that show she was on? She was a detective.
Oh yeah.
It was on at the same time. Damn. I can't remember.
I don't remember it. I remember that she had the show.
And Angie Dickinson.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Police Story. Was it Police Story? Something like that. But yeah, you're right. Shatner, man. He's they should make a movie about him, man. Just all the
Definitely
Crazy.
should. Definitely, he's a character, and his long body of work is definitely worth commenting.
How old is the lady that's going to be on your show tomorrow?
I don't know. I didn't get her age, but she's
I mean,
got to be older than me.
unless he was having sex with a freaking 12-year-old back in the 60s or whatever. Yeah, she's got to be old enough to. Well, I don't know. She might have been in that porn ring that was in Hollywood back in the that Mel Gibson's making a movie about.
She's got to be at least 10, 12 years older than me just to have been on Star Trek in the 60s. So, got to be at least in her 70s somewhere. At least. We'll see.
Yeah, I have to watch that just to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have a good weekend. Thanks for being here. Good, weekend. Good week, I guess. And tune in tomorrow. And if you have anything to feed me from the chat room about what I should be talking to Jason about, I mean, I have some idea of where I want to go with it, but
I would for me, because you get all these other comics on there, and you get you had JP on there, but Jason was actually the general manager of a comedy club for 10 years.
Right.
So he can give you the whole everything that the club owners hate, that what they're looking for, what they like. I mean, he can give you a perspective because he's not a comedian. Right. He doesn't come from a comedian background. So he can give you a more objective view.
That's interesting because he had to have studied the art of stand-up comedy enough to understand joke structure and all that kind of stuff. But he never, I guess there's a lot of us who just don't do it.
And he could probably give you some horror stories. You can say, without telling names or whatever, who are some of the worst cases you've had to deal with? What are some of the worst things you've had to deal with as a club manager or something like that?
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good day, good week, and we'll talk to you soon. And
you too, man. Take care.
Keep sending me stuff to keep me thinking. All right. See you later. Thank you for your service. RobertTaylorComedy.com. RobertTaylorComedy.com. I'll put that link in the description too. I was wearing the shirt a couple of days ago. When was it? Oh, well, Saturday. I was wearing Robert Taylor Comedy, and on the stream with Carl and Jamie, and they were both commenting, "Wow, that's a really cool shirt." The merch that Robert has, the clothing, the T-shirts. Top notch, great material. The print doesn't fade like the Rockin' 45's crap does. Good stuff. Check it out, and comfortable as shit. I mean, good stuff. Anyway, that's the show for you today. Knock 'em Dead Comedy is coming up on Government Comedy Podcast Network. Just want to see. I do have a show tonight. I know I have a show tonight. Just don't remember who the hell it was. Where are we? July 12th. Matt Holton. We're talking tonight about a moneyless society. This should be an interesting one for me. A society without money. He's written a book about it. He's a believer in this concept of a moneyless society. Should be a good conversation, maybe a mind-opening conversation. I don't know how it plans to work. We'll find out about all of that tonight. So tune in 8 p.m. tonight. Until then, I'm just going to remind you that you should always remember to turn on your radio. Bye for now.
I Listen to me now. Listen to